Good afternoon and welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint podcast. We're coming at you on September 25th, 2020, and it's coming up on election year, and this is another special edition where we're trying to go over some of the California propositions to help voters figure out how they're going to vote. This is the second part of that. We've already gone over some propositions, but before we get to that, I'm going to introduce you to our panel. So immediately underneath me, I have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty, a retired engineer from the state of California. And at the bottom of the screen, we have Tim Everett, our screaming eagle of freedom, a pilot in the state of California. And so now we're going to jump into these propositions. We went through 14 through 19 on the last show. We're pretty much no across the board. In some cases, heck no. But let's see if we have any better luck on these next six. Okay, so let's get into Proposition 20. So Proposition 20 essentially puts restrictions on who is allowed to get parole. So anyways, don't have a lot of strong feelings on this. Do you guys want to jump in on this one?
I don't have strong feelings in it, but I'll say yes on 20. I think there are some things that need to be corrected in criminal law, and well, maybe this may or may not be the way to do it, but I think I'll say yes on 20.
Okay. Bring me up to speed here. This is the one that's trying to fix the issues with the last Proposition 47 or whatever. Is that one, or is this different? Because this is about DNA samples and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's correct, Tim, that it's trying to fix some previous things in the law. I mean, if you read through the proposition, it does. I don't think it mentions 46 or 47 or anything like that. But it is trying to, I don't know. I say it's trying to stop cuddling the criminals, but
okay,
which some of our laws do, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Okay. If it's let's move on to the next one. Then I'm not real up on this one way or the other.
Yeah, it pretty much it says it limits access to parole programs established for nonviolent offenders who have completed their primary offense by eliminating eligibility for certain offenses. So changes standard requirements governing parole decisions under this program. So yeah, it's kind of an odd one. It also allows for some collection too as well for criminals. Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association doesn't have a position on this one. Doesn't sound like there's a cost to the state one way or another on this one. So I'm going to stay kind of neutral on this one myself, because I'm a firm opinion that I'd rather not blindly throw darts at a board myself when I go in there, so I may leave this one blank. So this is a very tepid no from our panel. Yes, excuse me, it's yes. We had a very tepid yes. So that's
tepid yes. Yeah, that's tepid yes for me.
That may be as good as we get with California proposition. Let's see. Moving on to the next one then. 21. I don't think this one is going to be one of those that we say yes to. That is to expand rent control in California. So this one is actually going to allow for more freedoms of different local communities to put more rent controls on landlords. And from a libertarian perspective, you want the price signals to come through. You don't want price controls that causes shortages if you try and artificially keep the price down by edicts. So, and this is part of the reason why there's a shortage of housing in California. So, let's double down on it. Seems to be the way government always goes. Do you guys have any thoughts on this one?
I can't help myself. No and hell no. I don't know. I don't know where we got the idea that the government is more capable than the marketplace than making decisions about pricing. And really and truly, rent control is nothing but a wealth tax. Okay, that's what it does, because it takes away money from us essentially, and give it to the tenants of our property. No, I don't want that. It's a wealth tax. No, hell no.
Yeah, and it eliminates mutually beneficial exchange in the free
Exactly.
marketplace.
Yes.
You know, if I'm willing to pay the rent, then anyway, this is a definite hell no. I mean, who in their right mind, with all we know today about economics and wage and price controls, it's essentially the same things. I mean, that's what this is. It's a price control. I mean, who still comes up with these idiotic, moronic ideas? Is, well, it can only be politicians. And
Exactly.
so many of these propositions I've noticed came from the Democrat side of the ledger. Maybe that's because California is just dominated by Democrats. Republicans, are not enough Republicans to come up with any ideas, good, bad, or indifferent. But this one is so horribly bad. You've got to be a complete imbecile to vote for this.
Yeah.
There you have it. So imbeciles, vote yes on 21, you dummies.
You guys will be happy to know that Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association agrees with us on this one.
There you go. There you go.
Surprise, surprise.
By the way, I would like to say too on this, if anybody wants to look into that a little further, Tim mentioned price controls, and that's a good subject to look up online. There's a lot of economic sites that will tell you how economists generally don't like price controls, and it's because it leads to a lot of inefficiency in markets. So, it's just something to further your own knowledge on that. By the way, another side issue too is that currently we are going through some kind of crazy rent controls as well. I mean, Gavin Newsom in California has said that tenants cannot be evicted, and Trump on the national stage has said something very similar, and this goes through January. So regardless of what we're doing here on these propositions, there's a lot of people in government who apparently have not looked up price controls. And
but it's not only that you have to have some knowledge of economics. Yes, a little bit of knowledge of history. Look at what happened in New York City because of rent control. I mean, they're trying to do something now, but like before the pandemic, they're trying to ease things a little bit. But God, New York was destroyed over this whole rent control, and they're still trying to do it. Jeez.
Okay. Well, moving on to proposition. That last word, Leon. There you go. Moving on to proposition 22. 22 is essentially that exempts app-based delivery and transport companies from being required to provide benefits to its employees. And this is something that came about under something that came in the beginning of 2020, which has caused a lot of problems, and that is AB5. And so AB5 came in, and it's just this horrific idea by one of our esteemed legislators, Lorena Gonzalez, where she thought in her wisdom that people who are gig workers need to be protected by government, and that they apparently don't have the wherewithal to get into their own contracts with somebody for a job. And so this has come down on a lot of industries. It was mainly meant to focus on Uber and Lyft. And yet it hit a whole bunch of other industries, and there's been all kinds of protests about it from different groups. I think truckers, made some sorts of protests about it and got some kind of exemption on it, and different other, musicians, other people, writers, everybody's being hurt by this thing. And then of all the things, here's a proposition to eliminate the one group this was really targeted at, which was Uber and Lyft drivers, which means that people who aren't Uber and Lyft drivers, I guess, are going to be stuck with the fallout from this nonsense. I don't know. But anyways, it's a this vote on this one, because this kind of at least gets, it undoes some of the damage. Unfortunately, it'd be best to get rid of AB5, but sadly, that's not on the proposition. So this is
that's my first take on this is, why didn't Prop 22 simply say we vote a yes will repeal AB5? Then it would have been simple. Instead, they've got all kinds of convoluted stuff added into it, and it just targets a few. It doesn't target as many as AB5 targeted, as far as people out there. And it's got so much stuff on there. It's like, government does one thing to screw things up. AB 5. Okay. They do that, and then government comes along with another idea, and what is this going to do? Is how much is it going to help? Instead, it just should have been abolish AB 5, just
Yes.
repeal it, and it was
Yes.
simple, and then everybody could have just agreed, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. Or if you're a complete economic imbecile, then you would vote against Prop 22, right? Because you're stupid. But
Yes.
instead, they have this stuff. So I'm still going to vote yes on Prop 22, only because they it's better than nothing, but it could have been so much simpler and better. Go ahead, Leon.
Well, I'm like you, Tim. I'm gonna vote yes on 22, and it doesn't go as far as I would have liked it to, but as Jason said, it undoes some of the damage AB 5 does. So I'm gonna say yes on 22.
Okay. Yep.
And Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association agrees with us on this. This, I think, might be the only one they said yes on. So,
Okay.
company, I guess, on this one.
because it's a no-brainer. It would have been a bigger no-brainer if it would just gotten rid of AB 5, but it's still a no-brainer. Okay.
Well, that was a rare unanimous yes on one of these. So, moving on to 23 in hopes of more good stuff. Let's see. So, Prop 23 is essentially adds state requirements to kidney dialysis centers, and the main issue I think is it's requiring them to have a doctor on staff.
Right.
When a lot of these places mainly have nurses on staff. I think there's a few other requirements that goes in here. Either of you guys want to jump in on this one?
I say no on 23. Okay, I don't know why the government think it have to define the relationship between a doctor and a patient, or between a nurse and the patient. I don't know why the government has to do that. Okay, because most of these clinics probably cannot afford, these clinics that are doing dialysis, that are doing life-saving work, but they cannot afford to have a doctor full-time on staff. They're probably going to have to close down as a result of this. So I'm going to say no to that, and let the marketplace figure this thing out. If the government will just get out of medical care, which is what they need to do. So no to 23.
Yeah, I agree about that. The people go in there, they get hooked up. They're already been hooked up by the doctor, so they're essentially just plugging in tubes into them, and they get
Yes.
on the machine, and it hums along for a couple hours, and then their family member comes by and picks them up and takes them back home. I mean, this is ridiculous. I vote no on 23.
Totally, yes.
Yeah, and the way I feel about it too is, just in league with you guys, is that this is something that the market can handle. Quite frankly, I think there's a clear signal to people if one place is unsafe and another place isn't safe. So another issue as well is this is the kind of things that this over prescriptive, I guess, medicine by government is what's driving the cost up of a lot of medical care. So, and that's one of the complaints of people on the no side of this as well, that this will increase costs to people who are looking for dialysis. So anyways, that's something that I would also vote no on. So that's all three of us. Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association does not appear to have a position on this one. So, but a unanimous no from the group on that one. So moving on to 24. So 24, this one's kind of a murky one. It essentially defends consumer privacy laws here in California. And so, apparently we had some new consumer privacy laws that went into effect in 2018, and they haven't been there very long. And, this appears to be something more that they're adding on to the mix. Do you guys have any thoughts on this one?
I think the marketplace should be allowed to handle this. I'm going to say no on 24, because the thing it's going to do is going to set up some new bureaucracy, as if we don't have enough of it, some new bureaucracy to try to handle these new laws to protect our privacy. This thing could be done in the marketplace. So I say no to 24.
Yeah, I say no to 24 too. Plus, they want to, if they want to if they're worried about privacy, shut the NSA down and stop this crazy stuff. Okay.
Yeah,
They're so worried about privacy.
Yeah. Everybody's worried about what the Burger King or the Twinkie company or something are going to do with our data, and
I'm so worried about that, right?
Yeah, collecting everything.
I'm worried about that.
Yeah, this is something where Leon. I think Leon had said that this would create a new, I guess, bureaucracy, and I guess that's one of the things it does say. It will establish
California Privacy Protection Agency.
Exactly.
Protecting your privacy since 2021.
Yeah. This one reminds me a little bit of something like I remember hearing Gary Johnson once talk about something he did in New Mexico, and he said, "Well, somebody wanted to pass this law about the dog walking, thing where every dog that was in a kennel had to be walked for so many hours a day." And he said, "Well, it sounds great, but that means I'm going to have the dog walking police."
That's right.
So at that point, I just had to say no. I don't know that this one is quite that bad, but it's just where they just passed a law. Let's kind of let that play out a little bit and see what happens. And that's also the position of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association as well, as to that they had just passed a law in 2018, and let's give it a little bit of time to see how that works before adding more laws. Also, too, they were a little bit concerned with requirements, how that would affect small businesses as well for compliance. So, okay, well, moving on. Oh, so that's a unanimous no on that one from the group as well. And so finally, we get to Prop 25, and Prop 25 ends essentially the monetary bail system here in California. Essentially, we hear about some of these no cash bail laws happening throughout the country where people come in and a lot of them just get released right away, without bail. The whole point of bail is to when you come in and if you're charged with something, usually there's a pretty good reason to have brought you in, and so that then they be able to let you out before your trial, but there has to be some kind of risk assessment. Are you likely to come back? Is there something you're forfeiting if you violate the terms of the bail? So that's kind of the idea of bail. You let somebody out and they have a reason to behave until their trial, because otherwise they may lose what they had put up for bail. So do either of you guys have any thoughts on this?
New York City, the state of New York, as to say, they went to this, they had reform, quote unquote reforms, and part of these reforms involved these no cash bail. So they had this revolving door. People come in and they go out, people come in and they go out. And what do you think happened? How did that work out? Crime is up. Okay? So these things where people don't have to put anything on the line to get out of being in jail while they are waiting trial, it's causing all kinds of societal problems. It seems that the government is out there to protect the criminals or the potential criminals rather than to protect us, private citizens. So I say no to this. Big no.
That's better than a hell no.
That's better than a hell no. Yes.
It's a big no now. Yeah. Is this our last proposition?
This is our last proposition.
Yeah. Okay. So, wow. Yeah. No bail. Boy, the bail bondsmen are going to be like rolling over, wondering how this is going to work out, because it'll put them out of business, will it not? Bail bondsmen, and they can make a lot of money. I've known some, and they were doing quite well. And so anyway, okay, so now it's just going to be based on how good you're expected to be. Will you show up for your trial, or will you skip town? Is going to be based on, I guess, your reputation, or what people say.
I think it's going to be a risk assessment by
a computer generated risk assessment is what they're going to use. So what they're going to use now.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
The computers are going to I see.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
The computer has no skin in the game. Just remember.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding. Just, I mean, I'm a little ambivalent because of lack of information. Like Leon had at least the benefit of previous information. But this just doesn't sound right to me.
Well,
Not having skin in the game to get people to come back. So,
well, keep in mind also that under the current system, a judge in many cases can release somebody on their own recognizance. They
Exactly. Yes.
charge somebody with bail.
True.
So this is something where you could potentially, judges could exercise judgment, which is what I guess they're there for. I mean, if we're replacing with computers, I'm not sure if we're still paying the judge for this process.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, yeah, my thought is, kind of a no on that same lines, because we do have the capability at this point, if we want to let people off without bail, and in the case where we think it's prudent, we can charge bail. So there's that. Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association also says no. So we're all unanimous on this one again. So
and just one last thought. This thing will incentivize people not to appear for their court date. That's what it does. Since you have nothing on the line, nobody have posted bail for you, your family didn't put up the $2,000, the $3,000, or the $5,000 for you. You have nothing on the line. So why would you show up for your court date? That's what they're doing. Yeah. They're incentivizing that.
Well, maybe because they get in trouble for skipping their court date, but I don't know.
Yes.
Well, to give a quick review, I think we voted no on everything, but props
22.
22. We said yes on that, and we had a soft yes on was it 20? I think as well. So 20 and 22 are the ones we're kind of saying maybe a yellow or a green light on. Everything else, we're just saying vote no. And Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association had only one yes, and that was for 22. So just to give you a sense. But we do have just a little bit more time left before we get to the end of the show. And one of the things that's up in the news right now, and I think maybe you guys have a little bit of thoughts about it, is Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed, and that's creating a lot of chaos right now in the election, as if there wasn't enough chaos already in 2020 in the election. You guys have any quick thoughts about that before we get to the end?
You know what the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, and ABC, and them, all of a sudden they just in 2020 discovered that politicians are hypocrites. Okay, in 2016, Barack Obama tried to put up someone on the Supreme Court when Justice Antonin Scalia died. He tried to put somebody on the court. They were all for it. Everything was nice and wonderful. The Republicans were saying, no, it's too close to the elections. And now in 2020, when Trump is trying to do the same thing, both sides have switched sides. Both sides. Okay? The Democrats are saying it's too close to the election. And the Republicans are saying it is Trump's constitutional duty to do this. So all of a sudden, we just discover politicians are hypocrites. We just discovered that in 2020.
Yeah, I heard a podcast yesterday, a historian who was an expert on this matter about the judicial process, and had a number of books about it. Anyway, so I haven't checked into this, but he said in the past there has been quite a few times, like 22 or 23 or something, times where this same 29 times where it was close to an election, and within a certain length of time, and Supreme Court justice had died. Every time someone was nominated by the president, the sitting president, every single time. I can't remember how many times they were actually accepted, but it would depend on the friendliness of the Senate, but every time. So there will be a nomination. That's a little tough to go up against historically, that kind of a precedent. So there will be something.
Well, the sad thing with 2020 is it's bringing in all kinds of chaos, that it's everybody system down. And this is just one more thing to add, fuel to the fire. And it's, like the Democrats are now talking about stacking the court afterwards,
Right. Right.
Who knows? I mean, it's all crazy. But speaking of crazy things that are just, beyond the pale for this election, we're coming into our knucklehead noise patrol to round out the show. And that's the time when we discuss something crazy that somebody has said recently. Usually it's a politician, because who else? So as far as this election goes, we've had the people who are running and people who are right up there saying that 2020 is kind of crazy and we may not accept the results. And so Trump was recently asked, in a whether or not he would accept the results, and he says, "I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster." And when the journalists counted that people were rioting, Mr. Trump interjected, "Get rid of the ballots, and you'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer. Frankly, there'll be a continuation." So I don't know if we can even make sense out of all that, but it didn't sound like he said, that hey, we'll try and accept the results. And then on the other side of it, Hillary Clinton recently said Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch. So it's a tie this time. I mean, we got two people. It's a lot more clear, I guess, what Hillary said than what Trump said. But either way, it sounds like both sides are gearing up maybe to have a lot of reasons not to.
Right, yes. To have a knuckle-down, drag-out fight. Yeah. I mean, listen. There is a legitimate issue about these mail-in ballots. I think Trump was trying to say that, but obviously, Donald Trump, he cannot get his words out right. Okay. I mean, he and Joe Biden have the same problem, but for different reasons. They could never get the words out right. There is a legitimate issue, these mail-in ballots. But, politicians, especially the presidents and presidential candidates, should not be making statements like this, okay? Because it really and truly undermines the integrity of our elections. By trying to say that we can't have, first of all, yes, we can have a disagreement about the results, but God, man, come on. We could at least say, well, okay, there will be some orderly process by which we will transfer power, and let that be the end of the story. But these idiots are out there right now trying to rev up everything to make sure we end up with people on the streets rioting over the results of their elections.
Let me squeeze in Tim real quick. You got something you want to throw on the fire here?
No. Well, I'm just wondering which one was the knucklehead, Hillary or Trump?
It's a tie. This is our first tie. Okay.
It's a tie. A knucklehead tie.
Yeah, this is our first tie, so I think we're proud of that. Yeah.
I would agree. They are both knuckleheads.
Yes. On this
thank you. Well, thank you for joining us for this one. We've had a great time, and we hope you gained something out of the proposition analysis that we gave you, and we hope that helped your analysis going forward. You can catch our show on libertariancounterpoint.com or Libertarian Counterpoint at Facebook, and we hope to see you for the next one. Thanks so much.
Thank you.